Listeners to this who haven't seen the book should be given some idea of just how richly illustrated the book is, I think, because that's one of the pleasures of the book. I mean, say a little bit about how you selected those illustrations and what you think sort of comes across from them.
Well, first of all, very few photographs in it. What I went after was in a sense the art out of the animals, which isn't to say that photography isn't an art. It's much more of a technological one. And the images start, some of them are 35, 40,000 years ago of artifacts that have been found by archaeologists. And then there are the paintings, and then Chauvet and Lascaux, these great animal paintings from what looked like an enormously rich culture they must have had. Because they've now found that from that same period, flutes, enough holes in them suggest that the music, again, must have been almost as sophisticated as was the art. And then just going through with all the other kinds of images to give a visual, a visual sense, a visual narrative of how it is that we responded to the beasts.
I think those cave paintings are incredible when you, as you say, when you think that they are 30 to 40,000 years old, and the way in which they seem to capture something of the essence of the animal. You know, it's hard to imagine that being bettered 40,000 years on from their original execution.
Well, Picasso said when he came out of those caves, he said, "We have learned nothing." And it's because I think for them, the animal was a tangible reality and that there was something sacred in it. And so they really saw, I mean, the sense of movement in those paintings, but also the sense of the quintessential fact of the creature is conveyed in a quite remarkable way. I mean, I'd love to get in and see some of them, but quite properly now they're keeping people out because of the damage to them.
Yes.
By our breathing.
That strange sense of communion between the predator and the prey is one which comes up quite often in the book. It seems to me, whether they are human and animal or two species of animal, that it's quite frequently encountered.
It does. I mean, it seems. I think it becomes perfectly clear that predators, over that huge, enormous passage of time in which they've developed, as they have learned that they can't afford to be hurt. That a lion taking down even a relatively small antelope, if the antelope's sharp hooves hit the lion and break the skin or damage a leg, there's a possibility of septicemia. There's certainly or a limping. And because predators only succeed, most of them succeed only about 1 out of every 10 times. If they're limping, they're going to be worse off. And so they've learned that you don't take on the biggest animal. And so what you do is I describe from a book by Hunting Animal, the fellow's name's gone for a second, and he describes a cheetah sitting on a mound watching some antelope, and just watching them and with that predator's gaze. And that the animals know that he's watching, but they continue eating because it happens every day. It happens all the time. It has happened to all the generations. And then the cheetah will take a run around the herd, perhaps. And at that, there's a little shuffling around in the group. They're a little concerned by that. He maybe does it again. And then the animal that is in the herd that has got a bad leg or is old or is young, it knows on some level the cheetah is looking for it. And it loses its nerve. It knows. I mean, it then runs like Billy-O to try and get away. I mean, it doesn't sort of stand there and take it, but it knows that, and every other animal in the herd on some level knows that one of them is going to offer itself up as scapegoat. And so so in the process, what's happening is that the predator is taking the weakest animal. In taking the weakest animal, he or she is strengthening the genetic pool of the herd. And as the herd becomes smarter and faster, then the weaker predators die off, so that their genetic pool is strengthened. And it's one of the reasons that I'm dealing with them, the alpha predators and the prey, is that it's one of the engines driving evolution. And it's a perfect system.
And you see the system misfire when, for example, humans extirpate the wolf and therefore the deer population explodes and the consequences of that.
Absolutely. I mean, the deer. We start killing off the predators for all kinds of reasons. And it's mostly, I think, it started when we settled down as pastoralists or as farmers. The important animals were the ones we owned, and the ones outside are vermin. So you kill them because they're going to eat one of your sheep or whatever it is. But the other extraordinary thing is that at a certain point, very early on, humans learned, because of our cleverness, to kill from a distance, either bows and arrows or throwing spears. Now, once you can kill from a distance, you're physically not in the same danger you are as when you have to actually engage, come up to that distance, hit it with a rock, or stick it with just a spear that you thrust, or like the lion that must run down the antelope and roll around on the ground with it. Then we kill from a distance. Then we naturally started to killing the one with the most fat, the one with the most meat. Or then we got to the point, in order to prove ourselves, the one with the biggest antlers. And so what we then, very early on, began to work against the evolutionary process of predator and prey, very early on. And now, I mean, you take that to a logical extreme. When we have a war now, we fly way up high over, or we send a rocket across to land on somebody's city. We're not in danger at that point, unless they shoot one back at us. Very early on, we started working against the logic, the extraordinary logic of the natural world.